Good morning. As this intro slide says, we're beginning the play Othello, and I think it's a play that has a lot to deal with, and part of what we have to deal with here is questions of race, questions of identity, questions of why do people behave the way they do. Uh, there are a crap ton of questions here that I think apply to the play. And so let's just kind of run through a few of the things, and it'll just kind of be a step by step as we go here. First of all, obviously, there's the board game and there's the connection. When I looked at Wikipedia this morning just to see whether I knew about the play before the board game or whether I knew about the board game before the play, I did find out that yes, the name of the game, even though this game has been around for centuries, the name of the game does indeed tie to the play: black for Othello, white for Desdemona, green for the green eyed monster jealousy. The elephant in the room, and I think I mentioned this at the beginning when we started talking about race, is indeed race. And the textbook and other sources will tell you that in Shakespeare's England, a Moor was either an African, and it could be from somebody from the Sahara or somebody from south of the Sahara. It could be a Muslim, even a person from India could have been considered a Moor. So there wasn't necessarily a racial element involved in the term, but if you start at the beginning, what a full fortune doth the thick lips owe. It's certainly a description that is racial, if not racist. And then we have the age, old, all right, and the implication of young, you, but he's an old black ram tupping, having sex with your white you. The whole idea of, fear of the black male sexual prowess being brought to the fore. Then you have the Barbary horse, again, an allusion to Africa. And, you've got, again, that sexual thing. The Moor and his daughter are making the beast with two backs. Okay. And again, we'll come back to the animal thing a little bit, but we see that here at the very start. And even some of the things that aren't necessarily explicitly racial are tinged with race. Damned, the idea that somebody is damned puts a black mark upon them. And then we have the idea of enchanted and chains of magic and foul charms. And the type of magic that would be associated with all of that is black magic. And we still have this contrast between the fair and the wealthy curled darlings of the nation and the sooty bosom, fair and sooty, pale and black. Those kinds of things go through. And again, remember, the foul thief, the practitioner of the black magic, is indeed the Moor, at least according to Brabatino's uh, accusations. And even if it's not foul charms, you've got drugs or minerals that weaken motion, in other words, some form of date rape drug. And again, the idea mixtures powerful o'er the blood, practices of cunning hell, against the rules of nature. All of these things imply that Othello is not necessarily, at least for the English audience, they're not predisposed to view him outside of the picture of race, the idea that race has something to do with all of this. that racial element plays through this whole beginning. And I think it's important to understand that it's explicit and implicit in a lot of the speeches. And then there's Iago's condemnation of Moors in general. They are changeable in their wills. In other words, they're fickle. They can't have any loyalty. And again, you tie that with the accusations of black magic, you tie that with the animal associations, and you start getting a play that has characters anyway, whose racist beliefs are right at the fore. And even this idea of naivete, that Othello is somehow of this free and open nature, and he can be easily tricked if people just appear to be honest, and he can be gently led through the nose as asses are. And so remember, he's a horse, he's a donkey, he's a beast, he's a ram. All of these things, I think, are something we're going to have to fight our way through as we go through this play. How do we view this play? And I think there's some things in the textbook that we might talk about towards the end. I think the next thing we have to do is deal with Iago. And the first thing that we look at is Iago says, I will wear my heart upon my sleeve. The common definition or the common belief about that idiom is that everything's going to be out in the open. It's going to be right there. But right after that, he says, I am not what I am. Okay? And, you know, when I was a kid growing up, there was the cartoon Popeye the Sailor, and Popeye would always say, I am what I am, and that's all what I am. And his thing sounded more like yam than am, but we'll just kind of go with it. So Iago admits that there's who he appears to be, and there's who he really is. And then he talks about, I lack iniquity sometimes to do me service. All the time he is planning and plotting revenge on Othello. He is ripping off Cassio, or Rodrigo, excuse me. He's ripping off Rodrigo. Go sell your land, get money in your purse. I've got control of your purse, so I make this fool my purse. There seems to be plenty of iniquity. And even if we take it a step further here and look at some of the allusions, Iago says, by Janus, I think so. Now, in some ways, that kind of fits where they were standing. He's asking Othello at this point to come inside. Janus was a Roman god, and he was the god of doorways. He was also the god that was the beginning and end of conflict. The gates of Janus were open in peacetime, closed in wartime. And, you know, Othello is going to get ready to lead people into war. There's a threat, there's a fleet. So all of that fits. But he's also pictured as this two-faced god, looking forward, looking backward. And, you know, the idea of two-faced, saying one thing out of one mouth, something else out of the other, also fits in here. So not only do you have the location being put together with Janus, not only do you have one of the conflicts put together with Janus, you also have a character development with Iago swearing by Janus, okay, by this god who was two-faced. I think it's important to understand that there are layers, and we should always be looking for layers as we're reading through these Shakespearean plays. I did also want to make another connection here. Just, we've talked about Shakespeare and whether he borrows stuff or whatever all else. I think when we look at Othello, not I must be found. My parts, my title, and my perfect soul shall manifest me rightly. Okay? In other words, I'm pretty damn good. There is no terror caches in your threats, for I am armed so strong in honesty that they pass me by as an idle wind, which I respect not. Both of these characters, I think it's important to understand, are very confident that they are noble, that they are good people, and that their noble character will be enough to save them. And I think that Shakespeare is playing with the tragedy by having these characters, be so confident that who they are, that the strength of their character will be enough. And that's one of the elements of the tragedy as we go here, as we go along. I don't know why I keep saying as we go. I think there are some other dichotomies just in here. You've got experienced and inexperienced. All right. He never set a squadron in the field. Doesn't know the division of battle, as opposed to Iago, who had Rhodes and Cyprus. Okay. Then you've got debitor and creditor. Then you've got damned by a fair wife, and wife and spinster are opposites. So I think as you keep reading throughout this play, always be looking for how these opposites come together. Okay? I think the black and white, the male and female, the honest and dishonest, all come together in lots of other ways throughout the play. And I think as you're reading, and the more you read, I think the more obvious they'll become. All right. I follow him to serve my turn on him. We cannot all be masters, nor all masters can not be truly followed. So there's the question of loyalty. There's the question of master and servant. And we're questioning who is the master and who is the servant, I think, in this situation as Iago is speaking. And then we have some more symbolic dichotomies here as well. Bright swords, keep them in the scabbard. So war and peace, bright and rust, uncorrupted and corrupted. All of these things just keep running through the play. And even, if a thing like this would make any sense, or, these things all make sense in and of themselves, but I think you start seeing them in the larger part of the play. It's almost as if Shakespeare is trying to hit us over the head with opposites as we go here. And then we've got hell and night and the world's light, bring it to day. And then let's go back and remember that he's a Barbary horse, he's a donkey, he's a beast, okay? He's a black ram. There's all of these not human things, and then there's the human. And then remember that he's also viewed as not human, but some sort of witch, some sort of demon, some sort of person who can do all sorts of charms. And so you've got these human, non-human, both human and something supernatural set up against each other, and human and animal set up against each other. All of those things, I think, are, again, throughout the play as we kind of look at it. And again, the biggest and most obvious one is appearance and reality. Iago setting up an appearance that contradicts reality, and Othello believing the lies instead of the truth, of believing the appearance instead of the reality. And then why? Why is Iago doing all of this? I think part of the terror in this play is the fact that it's not really clear. He seems to be angry because he was passed over for promotion. He also seems to believe that Othello slept with his wife, but he also says, I don't know if it be true. I'll act on it as if it is, but I don't know. In other words, he's just out to do harm, and he'll take any reason he possibly can get to do it. And so there, once again, we have this idea of, is Shakespeare trying to have us hate Iago as a racist as well as just a malevolent person? Or is there an expectation that some people in the audience would view Iago's actions as good because Othello's a Moor? And again, if you look at your textbook and you look at most other articles, they'll say the same thing I said at the start. This is what a Moor was, somebody from Africa or a Muslim, and race was not necessarily a part of it. And yet, it seems like everything about the play tinges on Othello's race. Couple quick reminders. Act 1, Scene 1, you've got these two drunk guys, you've got the screaming, you've got the beast with two backs that would surely get the audience fired up, you've got the jokes about the black ram and the white ewe, you've got comedy almost. And the comedy continues as the father and the wayward daughter he can't control, the mismatched romance, the old guy with the younger woman, all of those sorts of things would be the makings of comedy, and yet we're going to have a tragedy out of it. The people going to the plays would have at least known that it was called the tragedy, but as you keep going, I think it's important to understand that Shakespeare is doing a quick twist here. Okay? The very, very beginning is not an angry brawl like the beginning of Romeo and Juliet was. This is the beginning of a comedy. And there's not as much history here as there was with Julius Caesar. So the audience can kind of in the back of their head be wondering, when are we going to get to the tragedy? And then for the daily writing, let's just take a few minutes. Give me your opinion about how race should play into a reading of Othello, based on how far you've gone, based on the slides and what we've talked about so far. And we'll probably come back to this and look at an edit of this at the end of the play. I hope everybody has a good weekend. Do your best to stay inside and stay warm. And we'll see you in class on Monday, I hope.